What's up, YouTube? And welcome to the Saturday Show. It's Saturday, and that means it's time to talk about some cool stuff. And today we're talking about one of the greatest classic horror films of all time. Today we're talking about Dracula from 1931. Dracula is, of course, an adaptation of the novel by Bram Stoker, released in 1897. Though it's one of the most widely known versions of the story, it's not actually the first adaptation of Dracula to meet the screen. F.W. Murnau directed a German film called Nosferatu that was released in 1922 that predates our topic of discussion by nearly 10 years. But it is the version from 1931 and released by Universal Pictures that has left an indelible mark on the character and presentation of Count Dracula. Its own director, Todd Browning, had come from vaudeville and performed with various carnivals as well as the circus. The film is best known for its long use of silences to evoke mood and powerful close-ups of its characters' stark faces. Being the first sound adaptation of Dracula and one of the earliest American horror films, it was considered at the time by Hollywood to be something of a risk for its studio. Most of the weight of the film would fall on the shoulders of its star, someone who very nearly didn't get the part, even though he had played Dracula previously on stage. Bayla Lugosi would narrowly snag the part of our vampire by offering to be paid less than anyone else up for the role. And it's there that we come to our highlighted player of the week. Bayla Lugosi was born October the 20th, 1882 in Hungary, and it was there that he developed the accent that would much later make him famous. Lugosi began acting at an early age and would soon be forced to flee his home country. He began appearing on the stage version of Dracula in 1927 on Broadway. Later, when the film was made, he would lobby hard for the right to star in it. It proved a fateful casting. His thick Hungarian accent and strange mannerisms would become synonymous with the character of Count Dracula, and would reappear in branding, costumes, and animations for years to come. Soon after the film was completed, he was concerned about being typecast, but horror would call to Lugosi, and other films such as The Black Cat and The Raven would find Lugosi in similar creepy roles. His performance in Son of Frankenstein would be lauded as a breaking of type for Lugosi, as the character Igor, and it would be followed by many other outings of Bayla Lugosi and Boris Karloff as a pair on screen. Due to injuries sustained during his youthful military service, Lugosi later developed a substance abuse problem, and he was one of the first in Hollywood to speak openly about his issues. Sadly, this, along with his consistent typecasting, would lead to a career downfall that Bayla never recovered from. His final appearances would be in cult favorite films by world's best bad director, Ed Wood, appearing in his famous Dracula cape one final time in the film Plan 9 from Outer Space in 1959. Lugosi died on August 16, 1956, leaving Plan 9 to be released after his death. He was buried in his Dracula costume, his legend going on forever, like Dracula himself. Back to the 1931 film. At the time, it was a common practice to use the same sets and costumes to produce an entirely separate foreign language version of films to be released outside of the United States. This was done for the Spanish version of Dracula. George Melford directed the alternate version with Carlos Villarreal as the title character. Throughout the years, it has been debated over which version of the film is better. Melford's Spanish version is often hailed for its more elaborate filming techniques and sweeping shots, while Lugosi's star-making performance in the American version of the film remains quintessential. The film would be looked back upon as a pioneer of American horror cinema and started the Universal monster movies of the golden age of Hollywood. The character of Dracula would never be the same again, and the film still holds up today as an awe-inspiring piece of cinema. Alright everyone, I hope you enjoyed that look at Dracula from 1931. If you haven't seen the film and you're out for a taste of blood, I highly recommend it. It's one of my favorite movies of all time, without a doubt. Next up, we have our album of the week, so don't go anywhere and stay tuned. Thanks for watching The Saturday Show. Okay, we have a great record we're looking at this week. It's Jerry Lee Lewis and his first full-length album on Sun Records. This album is named after Lewis and was released in 1958. In the liner notes of the record, producer Sam Phillips notes that Jerry Lee Lewis is the epitome of rock and roll, and this collection of songs just might prove him right. Here we see Lewis stretching his legs on the sound that would carry him his entire career. Rollicking piano boogie and lyrics of Teenage Abandon echo out of 706 Union Avenue in Memphis, Tennessee. Featuring standards such as Otis Blackwell's Don't Be Cruel, as well as Goodnight Irene, it would also showcase songs like Crazy Arms and High School Confidential that Lewis would carry into his stage show for years to come. Strangely, several of the singles that Jerry had recorded previously, such as Great Balls of Fire and Whole Lotta Shaking Going On, were not included on this album. Possibly this was to help drive sales to the singles. Known for playing the piano with his feet and beating the keys with his fists, Lewis was an incendiary performer who left anyone on after him sweating at the thought. His antics would find him in plenty of hot water over the years, but this album finds him at the beginning of it all, right around the time that Elvis Presley and Johnny Cash would be finding their way into Sun Studio as well. Rock and roll was being born, and nobody ever did or ever has done it quite like Jerry Lee Lewis. This is a great album showcasing everything that he had in the tank before he ever was known to the world, and if you haven't heard it and you love rock and roll, I definitely recommend you check it out. The epitome of rock and roll, and the killer. Watching The Saturday Show, and we'll see you next week. Don't forget to watch. Hit like and subscribe.